Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim, brothers and sisters, Assalamu alaikum. Some of you have asked me what are my thoughts concerning the topic of homosexuality. Of course, this is a highly sensitive topic for some people, so I do advise to please take the information in this video and of course all of my videos with a grain of salt. Take the time to study the scripture for yourself and reach your own conclusions. It is ultimately between you and God. What I am presenting here is simply my understanding, my interpretation from the Quran. So when it comes to the topic of homosexuality in the Quran, the primary references we find are in the story of Prophet Lot. So God is giving us a historical narrative to learn from. And this is common throughout the Quran. God talks about Pharaoh, for example, and from the story of Pharaoh during Moses' time, we learn that tyranny and enslavement is wrong. So we are extracting the moral and core values from these stories and applying it to our day-to-day life today. Likewise, when it comes to the Prophet Lot, the story of Prophet Lot, we see this narrative repeated several times throughout the Quran, and they are all fairly consistent. So let's begin with Surah 7, verse 80. It says, "And Lot, he said to his people, 'Do you commit immorality such as none of those of the world had done before?'" So here Prophet Lot is addressing his community, and he's telling them, do you commit al-fahisha? Okay, in Arabic, it's al-fahisha, which is translated here as immorality. Note here that he says al-fahisha. Now, the Arabic word fahisha, from the root, means something that is ugly. Okay, something that is unacceptable, something that is obscene. So he's telling them, do you commit al-fahisha, such as none of those of the world had done before? Then he continues, you are approaching the men out of desire instead of the women. Okay, so this should be crystal clear for everybody that what he is referring to is specifically the act of what is happening. You are approaching the men out of desire instead of the women. إِنَّكُمْ لَتَأْتُونَ الرِّجَالَ شَهْوَةً مِّن دُونِ النِّسَاءِ. Okay? And he calls this action as al-fahisha. Okay? Then we go to Surah 27. We see the same thing being talked about. And Lot, when he said to his people, why do you commit al-fahisha when you can clearly see? You are approaching the men out of desire instead of the women. Indeed, you are an ignorant people. So again, Prophet Lot is talking about al-fahisha, followed by the topic of approaching the men with desire instead of the women, the homosexual acts. So again, he is repeatedly using the term al-fahisha in this regard. Now, we come to Surah 29, where there's an elaboration on this particular topic. And Lot, when he said to his people, you commit an immorality that no others in the world had done before. So again, we see that he is using the term al-fahisha. Then it's followed by this, you sexually approach men, and you commit highway robbery, and you bring all vice to your society. Now, I personally do not agree with this translation. I do find that it's not consistent with the Arabic text. What is actually being said in the Arabic text here, literally, إِنَّكُمْ لَتَأْتُونَ الرِّجَالِ, do you approach the men, and you cut the path, and you approach into your public settings the denial. That's the kind of on-the-fly literal translation that I'm giving you here. Basically, what's happening here is that Prophet Lot is talking about how people from his community were basically taking certain men and forcing them into a public type of rape or orgy. A homosexual rape or orgy. That's the way I'm understanding it from the Arabic text. So that's what is happening. And again, Prophet Lot calls all of this as al-fahisha. Okay? So he's labeling it as al-fahisha. So what this teaches us is that not only is the homosexual acts considered al-fahisha, but of course and obviously the publicized act of sex, whether it's an orgy or a rape, those are all falling under the category of al-fahisha. And why am I pointing this term out? Because God specifically prohibits fahisha. Like in Surah 7 verse 33, it says, "Say, my Lord has made unlawful al-fawahish, immorality, what is public of it and private." Okay? So if someone were to ask me, is homosexuality condoned in the Quran? I will tell them, no, it's actually prohibited. Because God says that al-fahish, that homosexuality is a type of fahisha. It's a type of immorality, and God has made al-fahisha haram according to the Quran. Now, I'm well aware that there are some people who believe that the Quran is not actually prohibiting the act of homosexuality, but rather, based off of the story of Prophet Lot, it's more specifically the publicized and aggressive form, forced rape type of sexuality. Okay, and I do see where they are coming from. However, to me, when I'm reading the Arabic text, when I'm actually reading even the English text, to me it's very clear that Prophet Lot wasn't only concerned about the publicized rape or orgies, he was also concerned about the homosexual behavior. Let me take you to another verse in Surah 26. Look at this. We'll start at Surah 26, verse 160. The people of Lot denied the messengers. For their brother Lot said to them, "Will you not be righteous? I am to you a trustworthy messenger. So be aware of God and obey me. And I do not ask you for any wage, for my reward is upon the Lord of the worlds. Do you approach the males of the worlds? And you leave what your Lord has created for you as mates. You are an intrusive people." So as we can see here, Prophet Lot declaring himself as a messenger, and part of his message is to ensure that these people are committing something wrong, and that is by approaching the males and leaving out their mates. Okay? So to me, it's very clear that this behavior, that Prophet Lot was focused on this behavior, specifically the homosexual acts. Now, another thing I want to point out is that I noted earlier is that the word al-fahisha was used, okay, in regards to the actions that were happening in Prophet Lot's community. And we can find something interesting in Surah 4, verses 15 and 16, which I would contend that it's possible that these two verses are specifically referring to homosexual acts. In verse 15, it says, "And those of your women who commit al-fahisha," it's translated as lewdness here, okay? So God is using the term al-fahisha again, and it's referring specifically only to the women. And in the next verse, God uses the dual masculine form, and the two men who commit al-fahisha from among you. You see that? So it's possible that these two verses can be referring to homosexual behavior, or it could also be referring to the publicized act of sex, as noted in the story of Prophet Lot. So this is my understanding from the Quran. I do see that at least the homosexual act is haram according to the Quran, because Prophet Lot called this act, as well as the publicized form of sex and rape, as fahisha. And God says al-fahisha is haram. Now, I know some people do not like this answer, and obviously it's just what I understand from the Quran. I personally have no problem with anybody with their sexual orientation, of course. So this is my understanding according to the Quran. Wassalamu alaikum.